and dive in to the One Ring starter set. It says, a strange invitation from cousin Bilbo, mentioning that he's in need of help. Most odd, but then again, a great many things about that particular hobbit have been odd ever since that business with the dragon. Nothing wrong with taking a stroll and helping old Bilbo, I suppose. After all, there aren't any dangers to worry about here in the Shire. The One Ring starter set contains all you need to take your first step into Middle-earth and experience the adventures hobbits get up to. With streamlined rules and ready-to-go characters, it's easy to quickly sit down and play the game. The One Ring is set between the time Bilbo went on his journey and the events of Lord of the Rings, allowing you to explore the Shire by taking on the roles of some hobbits whose children will go on to do extraordinary things such as Drogo Baggins, Rory Brandybuck, and Esmeralda Took. This box set contains a 24-page volume of condensed rules, a 52-page compendium covering the 4 farthings of the Shire, all the way from Greenholm in the west to Buckland in the Old Forest in the east, a 32-page volume containing 5 exciting adventures to play, 8 double-sided pre-generated character sheets, a huge full-color double-sided map showing the Shire and Eriador, 30 war gear cards for weapons and armor, 6 double-sided journey roll and combat stance cards, 2d12 feat dice, 6d6 success dice. All right. Let's dive in. The One Ring. I thought the One Ring was 5e. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. All right, let's see. There we go. Take the lid off. And here is what we have. We have the dice, the aforementioned 2d12 and 6d6 dice here. Custom fonts and everything. We have these cards that seem to tell us options. I can see Guide, Hunter, Lookout, Scout, and the backside says forward, open, rearward, defensive. This looks to be combat related. We have yet again a games catalog from the folks at Free League. Then we have these cards that will have, I don't know if you can see that, but various equipment. There is a 5e Lord of the Rings. I thought it was this one, but we have, here's our map. So this looks, so this is Eriador. Well, I can see the Shire. And then if we go to the other side, that's kind of more of the region. We have the various farthings, right? So North Farthing, South Farthing, and so on. Map of the Shire. Okay. Pre-generated character sheets. We have Drogo Baggins. As previously mentioned, Esmeralda Took, Lobelia Bracegirdle. So obviously, if you couldn't tell, you're playing as only hobbits here. Paladin Took the Second, Pramila Brandybuck, Rory Mac Brandybuck, Balin, Son of Fundin, and our good old friend Bilbo Baggins. So we have primarily hobbits of the Shire, but we do have Bilbo in here, and then we also have Balin, so you can get yourself a dwarf in the mix if you like. This is a unique system. Yes, it does appear to be so. All right, so we have our pre-gen character sheets. We have a couple of things. We have the One Ring, The Adventures, which looks to contain possibly a few adventures, or maybe just the one. Conspiracy of Redbrook. Okay, there's that adventure. We have the One Ring, The Rules, which looks to basically cover, again, as mentioned, Quick Start Rules Guide. Then we have the Shire, which is giving us a breakdown of the different locations and areas within the Shire itself. West Farthing, North Farthing, and so on. The geography of the Shire, notable locations, tales throughout the years, and so on. Tom Bombadil in here is mentioned. Which I guess would make sense if this is designed to go between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tom Bombadil would be present, so that does make sense. And that's it. We do just have a map of the Shire on the inside of the box itself. So, looks like you're getting basically everything you need. You get a sort of campaign lore guide of the Shire itself, your quick start rule guide, the adventure itself, pre-generated characters covering in new characters as well as legacy characters like Balin and Bilbo. We also do have, obviously, statistics that are useful for gameplay, but then also a little bit of backstory information on the characters themselves. We have, again, our equipment cards. And then, what were these things referred to as? Let's see. Journey roll and combat stance cards. Okay, so that makes sense. The journey roll is Scout, Guide, Hunter, and Lookout. And then the combat on the back, again, has defensive, forward, open, and rearward, talking about whether it's close combat or ranged combat. Which these are a really nice little quick guide. I'm assuming these are double-sided. Yeah. One side is rolls within venturing. The other side is combat information. And then again, we have our various exclusive dice, which look to, again, have a nice, interesting, unique font on them. I'm actually kind of digging the red and white. Kind of unique. We do have a symbol, a unique symbol, looks like on the 1 and the 12 of the D12s. Doesn't seem to be anything unique about the D6s. Let's see. Two D12 feat dice and 6d6 success dice. So interesting. It looks to be a unique system, separate from the system that we saw in Alien, and also separate from the system we saw in Dragonbane, which I think is also interesting. So if we were to go to the One Ring area of the Free League website, let's shop products here. What do we got? We have the One Ring Tales from the Lone Lands. Here is the starter set. Here is the One Ring core rulebook here. Role-playing in the world of the Lord of the Rings. We have Runes of the Lost Realm, Tales from the Lone Lands. We have the dice, black or white options. We have the Lore Master screen and Rivendell compendium. And that appears to be it. I could have sworn there was like a 5e. Oh, that's this. Lord of the Rings role-playing. That's my mistake. I was confusing the two. Well, now I know that they are, in fact, different things. So the Lord of the Ring role-playing game is 5e based. Yeah, so this is 5e based. Yeah, you can see it right here on the front, 5e. So that's where I was confusing. So the One Ring is different from Lord of the Rings role-playing. So yeah, I'm curious. This is a unique system as well. And you know what? See, the tricky part is what I've learned over time, regardless of how people seem to feel about 5e, and obviously, you know that people have issues with 5e. And I think a lot of those issues can be warranted for a lot of reasons. But when people, I think sticking with the traditional kind of system, the D20 sort of system that is what 5e uses, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, and you guys can obviously sound off in the comments or live here in the chat, it seems like people really prefer the D20 system. I'm not saying people don't like other unique systems, right? But I feel like different role-playing, like dice-based systems just don't seem to do as well. Like, you look at Pathfinder, which is obviously the closest analog to Dungeons and Dragons. It uses a D20 system and is very similar in a lot of different ways to Dungeons and Dragons in the way the dice are handled. This, I mean, I also understand the difference of using dice or different dice systems for games that are vastly different. Like we talked about the Alien RPG a little while ago, and that makes sense to me, that using a unique dice mechanic, because you're really trying to replicate a thing that is vastly different from Dungeons and Dragons, right? Dungeons and Dragons, you're designed to be a heroic person overcoming pretty serious odds through magic and might and things like that. Whereas Alien, you're trying to survive in a world where everything can basically just utterly destroy you. Makes sense to have different dice. Hightower here says, I've played a lot of the One Ring 2E, and it's very good at evoking the themes of Middle-earth. Okay. So that's good then. Because, you know, obviously we all know that Dungeons and Dragons is very heavily influenced from Tolkienian works. We know that. That's very clear and apparent. So you would argue, you know, the argument could be made that 5e or Dungeons and Dragons in general is a pretty good way at attempting to make a Lord of the Rings style game, but also at the same time, not as much in some instances. So I'm very curious to try this One Ring system. I also really like that the starter set is just set in the Shire, and you're not like dealing with the overarching, like wildly vast differences of like elves and dwarves and men and hobbits and ents and orcs and whatnot. I mean, obviously you might encounter orcs in the starter set as well, but I kind of almost like that it's set in the Shire, so it like gives you a cool intro to the game in a sort of contained scenario, as it were. So I think that works pretty well. For reference, this is again another $45 set. I'm wondering if getting it through Free League will give you the PDF. We'll see. We'll take a look at that. Yeah, so if you buy it from Free League, you do get a full PDF of the entirety of the starter set digitally. So that's nice. Again, so if you pick it up potentially via a local game store or Amazon, there's no guarantee you'll get the PDF version of it. Again, I'm not sure. I didn't see any codes or anything contained within this. Like I said, you might be able to reach out to Free League customer support and, I don't know, maybe provide a receipt or something to show them, hey, I have this, and see if they'll send you the PDF for free. Because, you know, if you bought it from them, you would have got it. I don't know. I'm very curious to try this out. Again, like I said, the thing that usually knocks points off of starter sets is the lack of the digital presence of it. As we know, for a lot of people, physical copies and things like this are nice, but we live in a pretty digital world now. A lot of people are playing online. There are options to get this, I think, in... Was there options to get this in Foundry? No, there currently is actually not any options to get the One Ring in a digital format outside of PDF. So that's really the best way to do it, I would say. Hightower here in the chat says, I almost wish this was happening next week as I'm playing the D&D version this week. Well, I'm curious to see how the D&D version stacks up, because it is 5e based, but it has different rules set to make it feel more Lord of the Rings-y, right? It says new rules for traveling across the land, the journey, and meeting the personalities of Middle-earth, the council. Thorough advice for the lore master on how to bring Middle-earth to life, including rules for magical treasure, the shadow, and the Eye of Mordor. In-depth information on 6 patrons, individuals sponsoring the adventure of the player heroes, including Bilbo Baggins and Gandalf the Grey. A bestiary containing a spread of adversaries from lowly orc soldiers and highway robbers to monstrous cave trolls and barrow wights. Rules to create your very own nameless things, unknowable beings from the dark corners of the world, and a complete landmark adventure, The Star of the Mist, which supports with extra support for new lore masters. That's, again, the 5e version, which I thought they had done a ton of products for the 5e version of Lord of the Rings role-playing, or at least they had at a while, but I think they have re-updated it to just be like newer rules. So we have Tales from Eriador, Ruins of Eriador, Shire Adventures. We have the Lore Master screen again and the Rivendell Compendium, which is interesting that that exact screen and Rivendell Compendium also exists for the One Ring. So yeah, I think I'm going to give the One Ring, I think I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10 as far as it goes. It does include everything you need to play. It includes a lot of lore, and that could be really important to folks, especially big Lord of the Rings fans. It includes the map, which is nice. Again, some people may just want the map to have the map. It includes the dice you need because, again, they are specialty dice. Again, not necessarily so, but it's D6s and D12s, which, depending on what you play, you may not have a lot of those. Yeah, there was one called Adventures in Middle-earth. I think I remember that. And I think I knock a couple points off, obviously, because there's the back and forth when it comes to, do you get the digital version? Because, again, seemingly, if you buy it through Free League's website, you do get the digital version pretty quickly after, PDF version in your cart. So I don't know the runaround of what it takes. I'll see if I can reach out to Free League to get information on how you could get that if you purchased this via Amazon or, you went out and supported your local game store. So there's that. And the other side is, while I like the concept of this being an adventure set purely in the Shire and like primarily a Hobbit-based adventure, that may not be for everyone. Obviously the Hobbits have shaped the world of Middle-earth pretty seriously, at least during the Third Age. But there are people who love the Lord of the Rings and maybe are not the biggest fans of Hobbits, and to go out and pick up a starter set and to have the starter set basically be, cool, you get to be Hobbits. If Hobbits aren't your thing, that's probably going to be a little upsetting to you. Now, it does state on the back pretty clearly, at least to me, that you will be playing as Hobbits in here. But if you were looking to possibly play like a wizard or, an elf or a ranger from the north or something like that, that's obviously not going to be the case, as this is Hobbit-centric, this particular adventure. But like I said, I do think when I read that on the back, it does state that pretty clearly to me. But if you just picked it up and kind of just got off the front cover and grabbed it and went, technically even the front cover is just Hobbits on it, but I could see that being an issue for some people. But all in all, this also seems like this could be a fun thing to play, especially if you have friends who are really big into Lord of the Rings, especially if they're big into Lord of the Rings and haven't really attempted role-playing games at all. This might be the way to go to kind of get that hook in them and pull them into RPGs. A quick, seemingly around a 2-hour session, let them experience living in the Shire. They could interact with Balin and Bilbo. It could be a lot of fun. So that was the One Ring RPG starter set, which I thought was pretty cool.